Here.
Vice Mayor Joyner,
Here.
Councilor Harris,
Here.
Councilor Ellis,
Here.
Councilor Day,
Here.
Councilor Stokes, Councilor Holloway. You have a quorum.
All right. At this time, do we have a motion to go into closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A29 and 8 to discuss the award of a public contract where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the city's bargaining position and to consult with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters, discussion of an unsolicited offer and an offer on real estate property.
Second.
All right. Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Joyner and seconded by Councilor Day. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Councilor Ellis,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Joyner,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Day.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and start our meeting. Have a roll call, please.
Mayor Parton,
Here.
Vice Mayor Joyner,
Here.
Councilor Harris,
Here.
Councilor Ellis,
Here.
Councilor Day,
Here.
Councilor Stokes, Councilor Holloway. You have a quorum.
Okay. This time, do I have a motion to come out of closed meeting?
Second.
All right. Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Joyner, seconded by Councilor Ellis. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Councilor Ellis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Day.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Certification, please.
Mayor Parton,
Here.
Vice Mayor Joyner, Councilor Harris,
Here.
Councilor Ellis,
Here.
Councilor Day,
Here.
Councilor Stokes, Councilor Holloway.
IT, can we get you
You have a
to
quorum.
knock out the feedback? Do I have a motion to come out of closed meeting? Motion's been made
You
by
want me to
Vice Mayor
proceed?
Joyner, seconded by Councilor Ellis. Is there any discussion?
Certification pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3712D, where only public business
Vice Mayor
matters,
Joyner.
one, lawfully exempted from
Councilor
open
Harris.
meeting requirements, and
Mayor
two,
Parton.
identified in the closed
Councilor
meeting
Day.
motion discussed in closed
Motion
meeting.
passes 5-0.
Councilor Ellis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Day.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. At this time, we'll have the prayer by Pastor Blow, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by myself. Please rise.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we want to thank you, Lord God, for blessing us to be here tonight. We ask, Lord, that you would bless this meeting. Lord, you said if we would acknowledge you in all our ways, you would direct our paths. So, Lord, we're asking you to direct us tonight. Bless everyone here, Lord, that they would receive what they need and that you be glorified in it all. We give you praise, honor, and glory. In his precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time, is there a motion to amend the agenda to combine CCR 1 and R1 together? I'll second it. Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Joyner and seconded by myself. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilor Ellis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Day.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Day and seconded by Councilor Ellis. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Councilor Ellis,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner,
Yes.
Councilor Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Parton,
Yes.
Councilor Day.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Moving on to our communications from citizens. Madam Clerk, will you please read the statement?
A A communication from citizens limited in total time to 30 minutes is part of the order of business at each regular council meeting. All persons addressing the council shall approach the microphone, give their name, and if they reside in Hopewell, their ward number, and limit comments to 3 minutes. No one is permitted to speak on any item scheduled for consideration on the regular agenda of the meeting. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body. Any questions must be asked through the presiding officer. Any person who makes personal, impertinent, abusive, or slanderous statements or incites disorderly conduct in council chambers may be barred by the mayor from further audience before council and removed, subject to appeal to a majority of council. See Rules 405 and 406.
Okay. The first person that I have signed up tonight is Andrew Walker.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Walker. I'm a local property owner and business owner in Kansas City, Hopewell. I'm here tonight because I read your article in reference to the young people riding ATVs on the streets of Hopewell. I myself am also an enthusiast. A few years ago, I purchased.
Can you speak into your microphone, please? Yes.
About a few years ago, I purchased 12 acres of land for ATV riding for my family and friends. And I think that at this time it would be a good opportunity to work with the city to provide a safe and appropriate place for young people in the city to have a place where they can ride their ATVs rather than the street. I've spoken with Chris Ward about my property in reference to the zoning and things of that nature to see how it can be used. The zoning is not an issue. Right now I'm limited by access to my property, having to go across CSX train tracks off of First Avenue or either coming off Hercules Road, going through property owned by West Rock or either Dominion. But myself being a career educator and counselor, I know it's very important to try to work with young people in times like this to provide them with appropriate alternative activities rather than just closing off what it is they're doing. And I think that if we can provide and work together, I have no problem working with Hopewell Police or Hopewell Public Schools, being an educator myself, and trying to develop something that is an appropriate, positive alternative to young people just riding on the streets.
Do you mind leaving your contact information with our clerk?
Yes.
So then that way the city manager and staff can reach out to you?
Absolutely, no problem.
And Mr. Walker,
Yes.
I was asked to provide these photos to the counselor from you.
Yes.
Do you want to take a moment to
Explain.
what the photos represent?
Yes, so the photo should show the property previously, how I purchased it. I spoke with Councilman Harris about that. So it's roughly about 12 acres. And I've cleared some, like I said, so my friends and myself can enjoy it. But I do think that if we can come up with something that is appropriate where the public could use it and have access to it in a controlled environment, we can reduce these activities on the street. I do work with a lot of people in this area on repairing their motorcycles and ATVs, and they're constantly asking me when I'm going to be able to open and make it more available to the public, but it's something I have to be a little more reserved at the moment because until I have proper zoning or permission from the city to do such a thing, I wouldn't want to put myself in harm's way and legal risk.
Excuse me, sir, is this picture, the one right there, is that where you hope to, how do you hope to?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next person that I have signed up for communications from citizens is Karen Thayer.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Karen Thayer. I'm a member of Hopewell, a citizen of Hopewell. I live in Ward 7. I am a widow of 5 years now. My income is $1,653 a month. My mortgage is $742. So you can imagine how much money I have at the end of the month. I'm not the only one in the city of Hopewell that's dealing with this issue. And I wish more people would attend these meetings so that you all can understand what we're dealing with. But the biggest problem is what's eventually going to end up happening is you're going to lose your citizens because we can't afford to pay for our houses, nevertheless pay for our taxes. We can't keep businesses in Hopewell because there's nothing here. So we need to revitalize some way, but find a better way, not through taxes, but find a better way to get some revitalization into Hopewell so that we can get some money into Hopewell, so that you can keep the citizens, because that's what's important. Keeping the citizens here. That's what's keeping you all going. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak that didn't sign up? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move into our public hearing. Mr. Bennett?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, and citizens who have showed up for the public hearing tonight. Thank you, everyone, for coming. The public hearing is it's a wonderful instrument that was put into our Commonwealth of Virginia, into the rules that govern local governments, particularly when it comes to the changing of laws and rules and ordinances, and then also the disposition and acquisition of properties. And so it's good because before this was put in law, before you could have deals made in backdoor rooms without any public input. And so I'm going to go through the entire process here that kind of brought us to this day. I don't have a presentation. I'm going to be following the presentation in the package that went out to the citizens. So starting with the City Council action form, which you have here. The public hearing tonight is related to the city's interest to possibly purchase the property located at 101 City Point Road, which is tax parcel ID 0800060. And this is more commonly known as the Bank of America branch. It has been since the late 1970s. In 1977 was when the property was purchased to develop. And actually, it was 3 lots that was put together, and then there was a alley that was vacated in order to create this corner there on the corner of City Point Road and Main Street. So the property is a little over 1 acre of land. It's in our B1 district, and it has a building on it, a brick building. That's 3,773 square feet. Includes 3 drive-through lanes and 1 ATM. So actually 4 lanes besides the building. The building's kind of unique because the property is a triangle, as a lot of the city was laid out with the early subdivisions that were done. The roads intersect not at rectangle angles, but actually at triangles. And I'm not sure exactly why the city was subdivided that way, but it's basically what we deal with in this city in certain areas of the older part of the subdivision. So the building was positioned in a triangle as well on the triangle lot. This site here has 10 parking spaces in addition to the 4 drive-through lanes, and then it has 2 of those 10 spaces which are ADA accessible. That's important because in downtown, you're not required to have any off-street parking. So parcels aren't required to have parking, but we have seen over the years that businesses that have parking are in a much better position to thrive and grow than those that don't have the off-street parking where people have to walk distance from maybe a shared lot. This location here, which sits on the same city triangle as the courthouse, the Hardee's, and what was the former Teamsters building, which was also a bank. I remember when I was an apprentice here at Steelcraft Manufacturing in Hopewell back in the 90s, I would go there for lunch when it was the Virginia First Bank before BB&T bought them, and I would sign the little paper to get $5 out so I could go to Quick Lunch and get the best hot dogs in the world. Really miss that place. But at any rate, the site is visible from Route 10. It's visible from the Beacon Theater, catty corner for the Hopewell Community Center, So directly across the street from what was the Marina store, which is now the Sour Lofts Apartments and the Brew and Blossom Coffee Shop. And it's across the street from the City Point Dental location and the Hopewell Downtown Partnership and John Randolph Foundation. So when the Bank of America closed the branch in the during COVID and kept the ATM open, they did that for several years, and then it was a year or so ago they closed the ATM, and then they pretty much just mothballed the property until we got notice when the sign went up that they were going to be disposing of the property by auction. And this is not unusual for the Bank of America. They do this, and a lot of banks do this with their property, rather than putting up a for sale sign or for lease sign and dealing with multiple brokers and transactions. They just say, we're going to have a silent auction, we'll take bids, and on this day, you have all the bids due. Not everybody does that, but this is what Bank of America chose to do. So I came to council in closed session and told council about the opportunity, and they gave me permission to submit a bid, which we did on the silent auction on March 14th. We were notified 2 weeks later, essentially, that we were the successful bidder and that we had the opportunity to move forward with the property. One of the things that I think is really important is that when we submitted our bid, it's important that everybody understands that we had to make the Bank of America agree that the contract would not be approved until city public funds were basically committed. So even though we submitted a bid, even though that bid was accepted, they had to agree in contract with our proposal that was submitted to the language that our city attorney put in there, which says that if public funds are not appropriated, then this contract is null and void, and they agreed to those terms. The reason why I bring that up is I don't want anybody to get the impression that this is already something that is done and there's no going back, because we would lose some type of money or deposit or anything, because that's not the case. We actually cannot do that. We have to go through the public hearing process. So that brings us to tonight, and tonight is where we would request to appropriate these funds. And I think it's important, we're in a time where the city does not have a lot of extra funds. We do not. We're not in a position to make like a lot of spending that doesn't have a real big impact. So I've spent some time listening to citizens over the last 48 hours, and I've talked to Robert Bob and sought his counsel, because I respect him as somebody who really understands and knows how these type of transactions take place. And when we submitted the bid for the $500,000, we did it on a piece of property that we had assessed for $750,000. Going back for the last 5 years, 6 years, the property has never been assessed for less than $600,000. And so in my conversations with Mr. Bob laying out the details for this, he said, Charles, he said, something that you want to make sure that you convey to the citizens and you convey to council tonight is that there's a difference between spending and investing. And the difference is when you can invest monies into a property at below assessed value with a significant margin, and then you can position those for redevelopment for the type of uses that will maximize the tax revenue for the city and for the citizens, you are placing the taxpayer dollars in a way that can generate more revenue for them that would be able in the future to provide those kind of services that the citizens need and deserve. So he said that's the main point that you want to get across to the folks who are coming out tonight and to council, is that we do not as a city just go after any piece of property at any time. There's properties that go up for sale all the time. But when we see a site that's strategic, a site that is positioned in such a way that you can utilize drive-through and two main roads in a corner that's got a lot of daily traffic and visibility. You want to see how you can maximize the tax revenue for that. And so in the resolution that we've prepared tonight that I humbly ask you guys to approve, what we would like to do is we would like to purchase this property with basically savings from the fiscal year 2025. And we would like to reposition this property specifically for retail establishment with drive-through service. What that's going to mean is currently, with its former use, this property has been generating for the city approximately $6,000 a year in real estate tax revenue. So that's about what we've been getting. And then when the bank was there, we got some B-poll tax in addition to that. But what we weren't generating was any meals and food tax or anything like that. There's a chronic problem with downtown Hopewell when it comes to keeping food establishments. And that problem is we're not large enough and dense enough to have convenience transactions. People who come and go in business in downtown Hopewell, they've got to create a destination. They have to have a product or a service that people are willing to get in their car and drive to, because that product or service is something that's superior than they can get somewhere else, or the level of service that they receive, or the price point. The trifecta is when you have all three of those: great service, great product, good price. As you continue to grow a critical mass of people, then you can start having convenience transactions. The alternative to having convenience transactions with a density of people is to have convenience transactions that are convenient and you offer a product and service that is something that people desire at that price point. And what we found is that looking back over the last 7 years in downtown Hopewell, the establishments with drive-throughs generate on average between $50,000 and $60,000 a year in meals and food tax. And they survive in the good times and they survive in the bad times. And they're not susceptible to the same type of forces that a regular storefront with no on-site parking, with no drive-through would be susceptible to, because we are creatures of habit and we like convenience. So we feel like in economic development that we can take and invest this money in this property for a short time because as soon as possible we want to flip this to the private sector meaning a developer or the actual end user who will come in and build something that we put in the performance agreement, which is something that will generate food and beverage tax and something that will have a drive-through component, because we believe that's the best way to maximize the future revenue for the city. And so that's the resolution that's before you, and that's the case in argument that I make. I made a commitment to council and to the city when I was hired 2.5 years ago, which is I don't present anything I can't defend. If I can't defend it, I won't present it. And so I feel wholeheartedly that the investment of public funds in the $500,000 for a property that's worth $750,000 with our own assessment, likely more because we normally offer assessment or more for properties when we go to acquire them. I feel like that this is an investment, and I feel confident that this investment will, over the long term, when we're able to sell or do a long-term land lease, whichever option seems the best for the city and for the operator, I feel like that it's going to bring much more revenue than if we leave to chance something going in there that would not generate the same kind of revenue, meaning an office user, which we may then get another $5,000 to $10,000 a year in tax revenue, or a nonprofit. Not that we don't want nonprofits, not that we don't want offices, but when you take a retail space with drive-through on that kind of corner, we think it's the highest and best use to control to the extent that we can and incentivize to the extent that we can to have that food and beverage with drive-through. And so that's the argument, that's the defense, and this is how we got here. Understanding that, you know, if council decides otherwise, then we will just simply terminate the contract for basically no support of the allocation of funds, and then it will likely just go to the next person, whoever they may be. It was a silent auction, so we don't know who they would be or what they would do. Thank you very much. I'm open to take questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bennett before we open up the public hearing? Okay. Seeing no lights. Madam Clerk, do you have the statement or do you need me to read it? You have it? Okay.
Each person addressing the council shall step to the microphone, give their name, locality, and phone number, and limit comments to 3 minutes or less. No person shall be permitted to address council a second time until all others have been heard once. And no one shall speak more than twice on any subject in any one meeting. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. No person other than the council and the person having the floor shall enter into any discussion either directly or through a member of council without permission of the mayor. No question shall be asked a council member, including administration, except through the presiding officer. See Rules 405 and 406.
Okay. This time, the public hearing is now open. The first one we have signed up to speak tonight is Ed Pappas.
Good evening. I'm Ed Pappas. I reside at 618 Appomattox Street in Ward 1. Looking at this acquisition of this property, I'm opposed to it, and I'm opposed because I don't feel that with all the priorities that this city has, that we should be spending money on a property such as this. And it seems to me that this is, I appreciate that it's an investment, but it's an investment that there's no telling when it might be realized. And the city has more urgent needs at this time than in investing in something of this nature. Thank you.
Okay. Next is Martin Mitchell.
Good evening, Martin Mitchell, Hopewell, Ward 3, Mr. Parton. I would also oppose this because there are no legitimate plans at this time for its use. So we're going to invest $500,000 into a property that could sit for we do not know how long. And we have much more pressing issues in this city and things to take care of that $500,000 could address. Council also has control over this property, and the city does, through the EDA, through zoning, through planning, and ultimately council has to sign off on all of them once they pass this. So I would say let the second bidder or somebody else buy it. Let them present their wants, let them absorb all the costs to develop it, and then you can decide whether it's something that we want there or not. That's it.
All right, next is Janice Denton.
Good evening, Council. This is strange. I have given this a great deal of thought. It is, I have spent the past 2 days, the majority of it, trying to decide. Most of you know that I'm the penny pincher. I was the penny pincher on council. My first question is, what is it going to cost the city? And this answer is $500,000. We still don't have our CAFRs. We don't have a bond rating. I would like to ask the finance director, but I'm not. I think I already know the answer. Is there a guarantee we can make our expenses every month? I don't think it is. There are no guarantees. We're in the process of getting ourselves straight. What happens, like happened at over on Winston Churchill, a sinkhole. It took money that we didn't have to fix it. What happens if we have an emergency now? You're taking money out of the coffers that we may need. We're not there yet. Can we borrow money? No. We have no bond rating. So how is it good business to go out and spend your nest egg that's going to help us if we need it on a building, as Mr. Mitchell said, you all still have control over? If somebody comes in, such as the gentleman with the development out on 295, Hope Crest, we can control that. We did. We did proffers. There are things you can certainly do as a council. My immediate first question, as always, what's it going to cost the city? Nothing. Nothing. I checked on that project. It is proceeding. It is going through the process, and there will, providing a disaster, the plans are continuing to build that development. That will bring people, and it will be working in the west end of Hopewell, which is a viable place. It's right there on 295. I know it sounds like and I'm for
This is Jenny, your time's up.
okay. I just would like to say I am against it. I just don't, right now, because the financial condition of our city, of our state, of our country, tonight is not certain. How can we make a decision like this? Thank you.
All right. Next is Riley Ingram.
Mr. Mayor, before continuing,
Yes.
you may want to take a vote to extend the meeting.
Oh, okay. At this time, is there a motion to extend the meeting until we finish R9?
Mr. Mayor, I'll try to be real short and sweet.
Just 1 second, Mr. Ingram. Motion's been made by Councilor Day and seconded by Councilor Ellis. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Day? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Ingram.
As most of you know, I sat in the we didn't sit in these seats until the end. But anyway, I did serve on city council. But I want to tell you, when I was on city council, Alistine Hager was the finance director, and we had city manager, and we knew where we were all the time. I mean, the treasurer was Gerald Stokes. Clint Strong was the city manager, and we knew where we were. We got a report, and we knew where we were. What concerns me the most is back in either 16 or 18, when I was in the General Assembly of Virginia, the Auditor of Public Accounts came to my office and said, Delegate Ingram, you got to do something with Hopewell. And I said, what's wrong with Hopewell? They have not this was the Auditor of Public Accounts said we did not know where we were because they hadn't filed report. So I called the city manager, and they were supposed to do this. They promised me they was going to be done by November. Okay? We were in session then, and that was in February. That November came, nothing. The city of Hopewell still doesn't know where we are. We have no idea how much money we have, but yet you're going to spend, this is nothing against Mr. Bennett. Let me tell you, Mr. Bennett and myself are working on another big deal for the city. I just finished building a big building out on Oaklawn Boulevard that he helped me with, and Kelly. But let me tell you, how in the world can you spend money when you don't know where you are? And the tax assessments in the city of Hopewell, on the properties that I have here in the city, some of them went up 48%, 45%, 35%, 20-some%. So, and you know, and I know the law says you must advertise the rate that would bring you in the same amount of money, which means you'd probably have to lower the rate to about 90 cents on 100. And you know you're not going to do that. But it is a tax increase. I told everybody, because I'm honest, I told everybody it's a tax increase. When I voted for a tax increase in real estate taxes, I told the people I voted for a tax increase. All I'm saying is I don't know how you can allocate money when you don't even know where you are. You don't know how much money you have. You don't know where you are. And to my knowledge, unless you did it in the last month or two, I don't think you still know where you are. The treasurer's office, do I still have a couple more minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The treasurer's office, they don't balance. They don't know where they are. They're off over $100,000 or so, okay? Not only does the city not balance, we don't have a balance here because we don't know where we are. Even the wastewater treatment facility doesn't balance. So what I'm saying is, I think private enterprise is the best work of all. And I think I was going to bid on that building, but I didn't bid on it, but I was going to bid $200,000. The tax assessment doesn't necessarily mean what somebody's going to pay for a building. It may be worth every dime of that, but they're not going to pay it. Now, but I did not bid on it, and I still say that my personal opinion, and nothing against Mr. Bennett, but I don't think the building's worth $500,000. But that's just my opinion. I've been in the real estate business now, oh my God, 50-some years. But I'm just saying, I think it's a bad investment for the city. I think that somebody, and I've forgotten who, but Chick-fil-A, I've been trying to sell a property out on Oaklawn Boulevard, and Chick-fil-A, they said it was not big enough. So how in the world, how are they going to come down here and have lines up? Go up here to Chick-fil-A anywhere you want to go, or go to Chester and look how they're backed up two abreast. You know, I'm just saying, I don't see how the city can buy it or do anything when they don't know where they are. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right. That's all that I have signed up for tonight. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Debbie Randolph. I live in Ward 1. Council, thank you for letting me speak tonight. I, too, as Ms. Denton indicated, have spent a fair amount of time looking at this and, in fact, talked to two counselors. I appreciate you all both talking to me. I've talked to Mr. Bennett at length. I appreciate him talking to me. And again, as somebody that has been on council, has been the chair of the Economic Development Authority here in town, and I love economic development, and I appreciate the job that Mr. Bennett has been doing. I'm going to have to say that at this point in time, I'm against this as well. My issue has always been money. I'm a banker by trade. That's still my job. And on council, that's always what I looked at, the bottom line. I know that you all are well into the accounting of where the city's at, and we're almost out of a huge mess that, as Riley indicated, we even asked the APA to come in and look at us, and they wouldn't do it right away. So we've been waiting and finally got the state in, thanks to me and Patience Bennett on the Finance Committee at that time. And we got the state to come in, and we've been through a lot. You all have been through a lot, and I can appreciate that. But I also still look at the finances. I was not as happy as you all were to have the tax increase, of course, but I knew we needed to do it. And we are using that money, from what I understand, to pay for our public safety officials. We need to bring them up to speed once again. And if you followed this city for any length of time, we've done that numerous times. And, you know, we're always at the bottom line because we're a small city. But I'm happy to see that that increase is going towards our public safety officials, which I 100% agree with. We've got to get them to where they need to be and make sure we're a safe city. I also know that infrastructure has been something that Mr. Parton has been talking about for years, even when I was on council with him. Unfortunately, we didn't know the situations that we were in money-wise for that, and we could never agree on getting full-force infrastructure. I think that we have many already existing infrastructure that needs a lot of work. I know that Mr. Parton is still looking for more money for paving, which that has been a recurring issue of the mayor. He wants that paving done. And if you're looking for additional funds, but you're going out and spending those funds on a potential investment, as an EDA person, I certainly understand that you take advantage of what you have. But the timing has to be right as well. Maybe had this been in 6 months or a year, which we can't plan those things, I would have been more in favor of this being something that we should do. But right now, with the new assessments and the new things that we're doing, we're not really providing a whole lot to our citizens on a basic level. We have so much current existing infrastructure that we're not taking care of, that you all have talked about yourself in the last 6 months or less. I just don't understand how we can afford this. I know we want to control it for keeping who's going to possibly come, but we do that with every property we sell or have up for sale by anybody. I know we've got money that's potentially going to come in from other areas that are being marketed, but quite frankly, I do not see how this is going to make that much of a difference right now unless we spend the money and then have an issue. We took away long ago we took away the stuff that the city manager had for an emergency fund. Now we have no emergency fund. So we've got to spend it appropriately. I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak?
I'm Ed Hauser, Ward 5. Ms. Randolph said a lot of stuff that I wanted to say. We've got infrastructure here in Hopewell that's collapsing, which needs attention bad. We have pump stations, which are getting ready to fall to pieces. Taxes are steadily going up, hurting the people that it's already hurting. And y'all are looking at buying a building for $500,000. It's a lot better things we could use that $500,000 for here in Hopewell other than buying a building. And like Mr. Bennett said, it's an investment, but guess what? You need money to make an investment. We don't have money. You keep taking all the money we do have, and then you want to buy an empty building with it. If that building was a desired property, guess what? It wouldn't be empty right now. So, you need to think about that. We got $500,000 that needs to help this city. We got roads that aren't fit for a covered wagon that's breaking wheels off of vehicles. We got sewers collapsing, but yet y'all want to buy a building. Y'all need to think about what you're doing.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good evening. Evelyn Britton, 5th Ward, Cobblestone Court. I'm going to be very short. I just would like to say I concur with what the others have stated to you, and my prayer is that you have engaged in active listening and listen to our concerns and hear the citizens for once. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay. Hearing none, go ahead and close the public hearing. Mr. Bennett?
Yes, if I could address some of the comments, I think they're very valid. I mean, there is just absolutely, it's wonderful to see so many citizens engaged in economic development, and we have to get here together. I do want to point out just a couple of things in the last part here before council makes this very important decision. We do, Mr. Ingram, we do now know where we are as a cast position daily. The treasurer's books are balanced, our accounting's balanced, so the city knows where we are financially now.
Have you
Just real quick, have you reported to the Auditor of Public Accounts in Richmond so that Hopewell will not lose any funding?
All of that is in the process being done by our auditors, but we internally, our finance director knows where we're at.
Must have been, why don't you let the council members know where you are? I just asked the question.
Go ahead, Mr. Bennett.
I was just saying that the council is getting finance reports. The council knows for the first time in years, the council knows I sit in the finance meetings and hear the reports from the finance and from the treasurer. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. And it was not the case when I started here, a couple years ago. We did not know, but we're in a much better place now where we're at. So the other thing is I wanted to dispel this myth that we control the property. That property, when it is sold to whoever buys it, any use in the B1 district is by right. They don't come before council. They don't come before planning commission. They come before no one. If it's in the B1 use, they can do it. Or what they can do is absolutely nothing. So they can buy the property and do nothing with it. And it will just sit there and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. One of the models that we find in redevelopment in economically stressed areas is sometimes the EDA or the city has to be the person to go in, because if the city doesn't go in and take that step, then the bottom feeders will come in and they will basically buy and sit and hold and deteriorate. And then you just essentially are serving notices, putting plaques on saying cut the grass, fix the light, whatever. This is a very prominent piece of real estate. But all of the concerns are valid. And this is the thing. The taxes are burdensome on our people. The rate is high. These are valid concerns. My job as Director of Economic Development and Tourism is to grow businesses that bring in revenue that does not require the citizens to have to bear it, because businesses generate more revenue than individual households. And so Robert Bob has made it clear to us in multiple sessions and even before council here, we cannot save and cut our way out of our financial situation. If we do not grow our tax base in the city, then we will die if we are not growing the tax base. And so I saw this as an opportunity to grow the tax base. I present it to council as an opportunity, and council took action and submitted a bid. We don't know who else submitted a bid. We don't know if no one submitted a bid. We don't know if the next person was $500,000 and we outbid them by $1. We don't have any idea. But what we know is we submitted a bid, and we were awarded a bid, and if council chooses to move forward, I will do everything in my power to market it along with the Teamsters building that as of this afternoon, I've been given permission by the Teamsters to market that together for almost a full acre of land on that corner that we can market as one property for retail with drive-through and food and beverage. So that's where we're at. But I support whatever decision council has. I think the citizens have made some really great arguments. Timing's not ideal. But when opportunities come up, I'm going to continue to present them, and we're going to try our best to grow our tax base in the city of Hopewell. And I don't want anybody watching tonight online, I don't want any developers to say, Hopewell's too poor or Hopewell's too downtrodden, and Hopewell doesn't want to be a player in growing their economy. Because I believe in Hopewell. And I was born here, I was raised here, and y'all have to hook me with hooks and chains and drag me out of here. So I'm going to keep serving the city. So thank you, whatever council decides.
Is there any questions from council? One question that I have is actually for the finance director. A comment was made by a former member on city council that stated we have zero emergency funds.
Good evening, council and community. We do have emergency funds. In '24, we were able to put away about $7 million in different funds based off of the financial policies that we adopted, and we'll have some for '25 as well, some savings. I do understand the community's questions in regards to purchasing a building versus doing infrastructure in the city. I do understand the concerns. Charles already knows how I felt about it when he brought it to my attention, but this is an investment for the city of Hopewell, so it's up to council's decision.
Thank you. And I want to elaborate on that just a little bit. That this is not just an issue that just came up overnight to our city. Going back at least 10 years since I sat in the audience and listened to meetings, there was not a proactive city council when it came to infrastructure. There wasn't. There has never been. You finally have a city council up here right now that is going to be making investments in infrastructure. We've been talking about it. The state has come down on us. We're going to end up having consent orders because of poor decisions previous councils made. But at the same time, just like what Mr. Bennett said, and the Robert Bob Group said it, Alvarez and Marcel said it, we have to look at growing our economy. We have to look at trying to bring in businesses. And yes, as someone that doesn't like to interfere with the private sector, I understand the points that everyone is making, but when I know that there's the possibility that there are, unfortunately unsavory characters in the city that could see this as an opportunity to pick up a building very cheaply and, have some sort of, unfortunate business that would not bring us in as much revenue as what it could if we marketed it properly and we actually sold it, for some sort of, more commercial drive-through entity, we could end up making a lot more money and being able to do more investments over time. We do not have an issue with meeting payrolls and expenses, like certain members of the public have stated. This city council adopted sound financial policies and procedures that were approved by not only the Robert Bob Group, but Alvarez and Marcel, and also the state of Virginia. They like seeing the progress that we are making in terms of getting our financial house back in order. One thing that we just recently did was we did a diagnostic bond rating for ourselves, and according to the diagnostic that was done with adding updated information for 2024, it looks like we're going to have a halfway decent bond rating, but we have to continue to put money away in the reserves, and we have to continue to demonstrate pro-growth in the city, and we have to demonstrate that we are bringing businesses in. We want to basically take the net worth of the city and move it up. And again, I understand everyone's points, and yet, yes, this is a very tough decision because, as former Councilor Randolph said, I would love to be able to go and strike a check right now and be able to go and spend $500,000 on fixing pump stations and going through and paving streets, fixing stormwater. I would love to do it all. But at the same time, that's going to require engineering, and there's a lead time with that. So we can't just go and bucket a bunch of money right at it, right here, right now. We have to, be very methodical in planning out our dollars. So, again, I know it's not, probably the most popular decision in this room tonight, but I do think in the long-term best interest of the city, I do think that this is a step in the right direction. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Well, we've closed the public hearing. Okay. Seeing no other lights, at this time, is there a motion to approve the resolution to purchase 101 City Point Road, tax parcel ID 0800060 as presented in the resolution tonight?
Second.
Right. Motion's been made by Counselor Ellis and seconded by Vice Mayor Joyner. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll
No,
call.
no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Harrison?
My question about this issue is, if not now, when? When will we be in a position to do what it is that we need to do in this city to sort of push us forward in regards to what we need? We spent a lot of time talking to Mr. Bennett about what it is that we can do to bring revenue into our city. And what I'm hearing right now, it's not the right time to do it. It's not the right time to do it. So, like I'm just trying to answer the question myself. If not now, when? Because we right now are failing in regards to bringing revenue into the city. So I would like to what I'm hearing tonight is everybody that's come to the mic has been in disagreement with us going forward with this. Now, is this the will of the city?
Yes.
Because the will of the city, if this is what the will of the city is, then I'm about for the will of the city. But what it is that I'm not seeing is all of the city. Nobody from my ward has gotten up and said anything from Ward 2. And so if that's the case, where does that put me in regards to understanding? Because like I said, I want to do what the will of the city is. Now, I do know that when we did things in other areas, there were referendums that were sent out to get individuals' opinions about this. Is this something that we need? And if it's something that we can do, if we can do that, so I can get an understanding of our entire citizenship here in Hopewell, because I really want to do what the entire citizenship wants to do. And what I'm hearing right now is not a fair assessment of the entire, and I respect everybody that's going, because I don't feel like we need to spend money if the people don't want us to spend it. But I hear everybody, and I'm for that. But I'm just saying, are we covering? Is the coverage right? That's why I'm saying, if not now, when?
There is no coverage. None of the
Excuse
councilors have board
me.
meetings about this.
You're out of order, Ms.
Yes, I
Randolph.
am, and I'm getting ready to leave because you all are not gonna listen to us, and you're gonna do what you want.
Anyway,
So,
Well,
please
I'm,
continue with your comments, Mr.
I'm
Harrison.
finished with my comment. If not now, when?
Thank you. All right, at this time, Counselor Day.
I wanted to ask Stacy Jordan, see if I have a question. As far as our bond rating, how does doing something like this look for the city as a whole? Is this looked at as a positive, that we're trying to make investments into the city and trying to work towards building our economy back up? Is that going to be looked at as a positive, working towards that goal?
Yes, ma'am. Anything that's looked at as an investment towards the city of Hopewell in general is going to be a good look on the bond rating.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no more lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Moving on to, let's see, the first regular business item. All right. We have a proclamation for the Child Care Month. Is there I think it's LaJoyce Lewis present? LaJoyce Lewis? No? Okay. Well, we will just read the proclamation out loud and we'll just get it to her. Whereas the child care awareness in America and other organizations nationwide are recognizing child care providers on this day. Whereas the child care system supports children's growth, development, and educational advancement and creates a positive economic impact to families and communities. And whereas child care providers are essential to the health of our communities by fostering welcome spaces, supporting working families, and creating positive, enriching environments where children can develop lifelong skills. And whereas Hopewell recognizes that childcare has been and continues to be a lifeline for families, communities, and the economy. As such, it has provided much-needed support to providers to help sustain the viability of childcare by health and safety standards, and all licenses facilities must adhere to strict safety standards, including regular inspections, staff training in first aid, and CPR for emergency situations, inclusive policies to promote inclusive practices and accommodate children with diverse needs, including those with disabilities and varying cultural backgrounds, to ensure equal access to services, and the city will foster with local organizations, schools, and health services to create a network of support for families, ensuring access to resources that promote children's development and well-being. Whereas support for affordable, accessible, and high-quality childcare represents a worthy commitment to help families support children's healthy development, learning, and keeping our economy growing strong. Now, therefore, I, Johnny Parton, and Rita Joyner, as Mayor and Vice Mayor of Hopewell, and all members on City Council, hereby proclaim May 9, 2025, as Provider Appreciation in Hopewell, and encourage all citizens to recognize child care providers for their essential work and the valuable contributions they are for our community. All right. At this time, do I have anyone from Animal Care and Control present? No?
Mr. Harris, you said if not now, when?
Ma'am, excuse me,
you
you're
all
out of
listen
order.
to the citizens of
Ma'am,
Hopewell.
you are out of order.
That's when.
At this time, we are
Good night.
the proclamation for Animal Care and Control Appreciation Week. Whereas the Animal Service Unit is committed to setting the standard of professionalism in animal welfare and public safety through training, networking, and advocacy. And whereas the Animal Service Units dedicate their lives to the health and safety of at-risk, helpless animals. And whereas the Animal Service Unit professionals work to rescue and protect animals from injury, disease, abuse, and starvation. And whereas federal, state, and local government officials throughout the nation take this time to recognize, thank, and commend all animal care and control professionals for the dedicated services they perform and for fulfilling the commitment to providing the highest and most efficient level of customer service. And now, therefore, I, Johnny Parton, and Rita Joyner, Mayor and Vice Mayor of Hopewell, Virginia, and all council members hereby proclaim April 13th through 19th, 2025 as Animal Care and Control Appreciation Week in Hopewell, Virginia, and urge all citizens to recognize animal care providers for their essential work and how valuable they are for our communities. And my last one for tonight, do we have anyone from dispatch or public safety telecommunications? Okay. Okay. All right. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police, firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Hopewell Communications Center, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the Hopewell communities have contributed substantial to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. Each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. And now, therefore, I, Johnny Parton, and Rita Joyner, Mayor and Vice Mayor of Hopewell, Virginia, and all council members here proclaim April 13 through 19, 2025 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Hopewell, Virginia, and urge all citizens to recognize telecommunicators for their essential work and how valuable they are for our communities. All right.
Thank you for recognizing the animal control and dispatches.
All right. At this time, we're moving on to R2. Ms. Martinez.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of council. One moment. Tonight I come before you to finalize the MOA for the 2025 through 2027 Nova South swim season. As a quick recap, I just want to provide you a hierarchy of what the department looks like at its current structure. As you can see, our aquatics division has 3 full-timers and multitude of part-timers that are all currently vacant. So we have funded for 3. Our part-time staff is 4 positions with a total of an FTE of 0.63. Our current building operations staffing would be 67.5 hours, with Nova 75 hours. As of July 1st, our goal is to go to reopening at 6 a.m., as well as Saturdays from 9 to 3. That will increase staff hours to 79 hours, with Nova South being at 81. For those that are visual learners, like myself, I like to see everything out on a diagram so that we can see that. That is what our current structure looks like with the 3 full-time employees. That's kind of the overlap that we are hoping to start with, and we're proud to say that the aquatics program specialist just started this past Wednesday, so we should be resuming some additional hours here shortly after her training period has come to a conclusion. My goal is to continue to operate with 4 part-time positions to kind of overlap so that we can provide those lunch breaks for the staff. As I mentioned before, ideally, if we had 4 full-time aquatic staff, that will provide the coverage where I wouldn't have to rely so heavily on part-time staff. The majority of my part-time staff are collegiate or high school students, so they're only available in the evenings or on weekends. So having 4 full-time lifeguards dedicated to the center will allow the operations for the entire frame. As you can see on the diagram up top, that will provide coverage for everything. That's from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. we'll have coverage. So there is no longer a gap in between lunchtime to have to shut down because we don't have staff. So the current MOA terms, as you can see on the screen, is Monday they have 4 lanes from 4:45 to 6:15, and then 2 lanes from 6:15 to 7:30. Tuesday they have 6 lanes in the morning from 5 to 7, and then 5 lanes from 4:45 to 7:30 p.m. Wednesday is also 4 lanes, and then drops down to 2. Thursday, the same thing, 4 lanes, drop down to 2. And then Saturday, they currently use 6 lanes because we aren't open to the general public. However, when we do move to the general public, they will have dropped down to 4 lanes. Their current rental rate is $11 per lane per hour. And I'm sorry this is really small, but this is our current pool schedule. Again, I'm a visual learner, so this help brings it down. We have Learn to Swim that we also partner with Swim RVA. We also have a group that's a marine training that come in, and we would like to get our scuba diving group back into the pool as well. So having that additional staff person allows us additional hours to fill those in without making the necessary arrangements in the evening so we can have that pool operational for the citizens. Nova's new request for this upcoming 2 seasons is Monday, 4 lanes from 4:45 to 7:45. 6 lanes from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., which will mean when we reopen on 6 a.m. next fiscal year, Tuesdays and Thursdays, it would not be open to the general public for that first hour or so, but they'll still be open at 7 a.m. when typically the swim team leaves. And then Wednesday, we have 4 lanes. Thursday, we talked about that. It's the same duplicate of Tuesday. Friday will be 4 lanes. We can strike out Friday. I apologize, I did not update this PowerPoint presentation. And working with Nova South, they would prefer Saturdays instead of Friday night practice. So that's why you see both of them, because they were still in the communications. And then the rental rate for next season will go up to $12. And then in 2026, 2027 season, it will go up to $13 to hopefully get them to the city council approved rate at $15 and in the coming years. Just want to highlight, again, this is what the Nova requested pool schedule will look like. The highlighted areas on the left-hand side, starting at 3 o'clock to 6 p.m., that is what we call our youth time. That's when our kids can come into our community center, 12 and above. They get to come into the community center with no supervision. They get to utilize the gym as well as the pool. So I just wanted to make sure we highlighted that for you all as well tonight. As I requested before my budget presentation, requesting a full aquatics programs manager position to help facilitate this MOA as well as the general operations for the community. So as of April through June, which we're already past April, what the investment would be $20,000, $587. For fiscal year 26, with benefits, it would be $82,350 would be the request in order to make this all happen. The actual MOA is attached in your documents as well. I don't have a copy for the general public, but it is part of the attachments that went out. The highlighted areas were the things that were changed and was agreed upon by Nova South. And I will take any questions you may have.
Are there any questions at this time? Seeing no lights. Oh, you got one? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So your hourly rate, you're going to go up to 15.
So they have requested that we continue on the path that we have been on in the last couple of years, which is they go up $1 per season until we get to that $15 rate. Now, if City Council changes that rate between now and then, it's again going to go up $1 per year until they get to that City Council rate.
All right. And everything worked out well with them and you with this?
Yes, sir.
Took 3 times, but we finally got it.
This is the MOA that they would like to keep them here in Hopewell. Yes, sir.
Good. I like that.
All right. Seeing no other lights, at this time, is there a motion to approve the MOA with Nova South as presented tonight and agreed upon by both parties?
Mr. Mayor, may I have a small adjustment with that?
Yeah.
Can we have the city manager sign that MOA since it's a 2-year commitment?
Yeah, and to
Thank you.
include the city manager to sign the necessary contract. Is there a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Motion been made by Councilor Ellis, seconded by Councilor Day. Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Councilor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Councilor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Councilor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you so much.
R3, Ms. English and Dr. Hackney.
Mr. Mayor, I got comments that the people cannot hear you on your mic.
Can you hear someone? Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Good evening. It's good to see you all, Dr. Blanker, Mr. Gaston, City Council. We are happy to be here tonight, and I know that I can speak both for all of our school board as well as Janelle, our finance director, when we say, in addition to being your superintendent of schools and your school's finance director, we are also residents of Ward 4, and we are in this struggle with you all. And I'm excited to be here tonight to present to you another level-funded budget by asking you to help us ultimately to roll over our savings from this year, most of it around personnel positions that we just can't fill with qualified candidates right now. So we've got a brief slideshow, but we just want you all to know that we have been so blessed, and I think you all know this, but we have, for a long time, wanted to start having regular finance committee meetings with both of our boards, and we have had multiple meetings recently, not just in preparation for our budget presentation, but more so because of some of those infrastructure challenges and capital improvement projects, and we've just felt so supported with an understanding that a part of your investment in healing this city is around our schools and the quality of education that our children receive, and the buildings and the infrastructure that supports that process. So we're very thankful. Real simple. We've got 4 quick slides. Janelle's going to talk about the money, and I'm going to talk about the teaching and learning, and then we're going to be done. So go ahead, Janelle.
All right, on the first page of the presentation, which is a chart here that shows, we just wanted to show the revenue that we receive and let you know that we do receive it from the city, from you, from the state, from the federal government, and we have other funds. The majority of our funding comes from the state government, with federal and local government providing most of the balance. Other funds are from non-governmental grants, miscellaneous funds, and a carryover of previously received funds. So if you look down in the chart, there is a breakdown of each revenue source. And the first column has the fiscal year 25, our current year original adopted budget. And that's comparing it to our fiscal year 26 proposed budget. Now these figures are for all 4 funds. So they're operating fund, 3 funds really. Operating fund, cafeteria fund, and the textbook fund. So they're all combined here. The third column of figures is your dollar increase. So you'll see that the state revenues are increasing about $2.5 million, where the federal, local, and other revenues are all decreasing. And overall, there's a total increase of almost $1.5 million across all sources, and that percentage increase is only 1.96%. And then the last column, you'll see the percentage of our total budget. So the state does provide the majority of the funds at 63.8%. The federal government comes in around 12.5%. The local government about 17.8%, and then other funds making up about 5.81% of the total budget. And the schools, just to note, have received level funding from the city for 8 of the last 10 fiscal years.
Thank you. Your next slide is just a few bullets of the broad categories of expenditures that we need to invest in this next school year. There are specific required teaching positions based on our state commitment of staff to student ratios. We are working very hard to help our teachers who are not considered highly qualified to get qualified as quickly as possible, and so we're looking at investing in an accelerated licensure program to do that. 1 in 3 of our teachers does not meet that criteria, so that's obviously an urgent expenditure and expansion of our budgeting. Continuing the mental health supports that we have put in place, specifically since COVID, where we have a licensed mental health clinician in every one of our buildings. We shudder to think what would happen if we did not continue those supports. They are literally making the difference in the stability of many of our children at all levels in the school district. The next is we've had a huge increase in our renewal rate for health insurance this year. It's 27%. That equates to over $1 million in new money. So that's a big expenditure that we're looking to fund. Some specialized programming for our non-traditional learners that are just not succeeding, in particular at the high school level, that we've talked extensively about with our joint finance committees. We have to match or we have to provide the 3% increase that the state will provide us for about half of our employees that are considered meet the SOQ minimums. We need to make up the difference for the rest of our staff to stay competitive in this time with our surrounding school districts. And upon your recommendation, and we enthusiastically agree, the addition of 1 finance position to help us help you in the struggle with the CAFRs. So again, we're after she tells you a little bit more about the money, we're going to talk about how we're going to get there without any increase from council this year for our budget.
So all of the needs that Dr. Hackney just told you about, those equate to almost $4.6 million in additional funds for next year that we would need. And then estimated new state revenues is only about $2.5 million. So that leaves a deficit next year of about $2.1 million.
So one of the ways that we're looking at trying to make up that $2.1 million is, as Dr. Hackney said before, we have lots of vacancies because we just can't find enough teachers to fill those positions. So we have an estimated personnel vacancy savings of about $1.4 million that we would like to apply to next year's budget. And also in the third and fourth quarter, we are strategically conserving funds, only spending what we have to spend to try to be able to use those savings to apply to next year's budget so that we don't have to come to the city and ask you for additional funds for next year.
And that's a good problem to have and a bad problem to have. But it creates an opportunity for us this year to help you and to be able to come again with a proposal that supports your continuing to fund us at the same rate you have for pretty much the last 8 years. With one caveat, and that's that you allow us to continue to conserve those funds. I mean, the personnel ones are not going to change. We're in the last few weeks of school, and we're not going to be able to fill these positions, and probably wouldn't choose to at this point. But we're going to try again next year. But anyway, so the last slide basically is just the request that to which Janelle just referred. If you will allow us to roll over the personnel savings that we have that we're predicting and we're pretty sure about because the people are not in those positions, and the additional money from the some operational savings that have been conserving since January, that will allow us to present you with a budget that asks for level funding from the City of Hopewell. We appreciate your consideration, and I want you to know we're in this with you, and it's our pleasure to try and help do our part to get us through this.
Is there any questions or comments from City Council? Seeing none, I just want to say thank you guys. It's really been a pleasure, working these past, I guess maybe a couple months now, through a lot of these issues and being able to continue to have that good dialogue and, like you said, working on this together as a team because, both, the school division and the city has a lot of, pressing priority needs. And I just really do appreciate it. And, I have no problem, supporting this, this request to incorporate into y'all's budget resolution.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
No,
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay.
No, I would just echo your comments, that's all.
Okay. Are there any other comments from council? Do you guys need a motion for us, or is the intent good enough?
We certainly trust you. I think as long as this is a yes that we can continue to save,
Yeah.
and we have a commitment that we can build the budget now based on that.
Yeah. You wanted a motion to include in the budget resolution? Okay. All right. Is there a motion to? Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you still got to come before a public hearing before council, right?
No, not for their budget. You have your own public hearing for your budget.
Right.
They did it already. So you're accepting their budget to go into our budget resolution.
Right, but I thought we've done public hearings in the past for the school budget.
I think if council's satisfied for it to enter the budget, I mean, the overall budget's going to be
Right.
voted on later.
Okay, that's fine. I thought in the past we've had separate public hearings, but yeah, no, I'm perfectly fine. Is there a motion to approve the Hopewell City fiscal year 26 budget as presented tonight?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Joyner and seconded by Councilor Day. Any lights, discussion? None? Roll call, please.
Councilor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Councilor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Councilor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We are very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to R4. Ms. Smith?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor, members of council, as the HR director approaches the podium, I would like to inform council that we have a presentation by Mr. Wolf, who conducted the compensation study tonight. He will be online to present the study and the roadmap for the city. Ms. Smith will be available to answer any questions, but we will be asking for adoption tonight of a two-phase approach of implementing the public safety steps for sworn and certified officers for police and fire, and to proceed with implementing the second phase for FY 27, and adopting those compensation and study results in the next upcoming fiscal year. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Ms. Smith and Mr. Wolf.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Brian, are you online? Excuse my voice. My allergies today are acting up.
That's okay. I've got a sore throat too, so don't feel bad.
Is he there?
Hello?
Hi, Brian.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Okay, we're ready. Thank you.
Very good. How is everybody?
Great. Good.
Perfect. Can you all see my screen? Can you see the presentation? Everything's good?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm not sure exactly who's in the room, but I'm going to give a brief introduction that's mostly a recap of what I presented last time, with some of the nitty-gritty details excluded, and we'll just kind of get right into the business of it. But for those who haven't met me before, if there's anybody in the room who that qualifies for, my name is Brian Wolf. I'm a project manager with Evergreen Solutions, and I've been working with Yaska and the city on this compensation and classification study. And so we're going to talk today about some of our findings and recommendations. The goals of the study, again, we're going to just skip this and kind of get into it. The goals of the study were to review the current compensation and classification systems, to look at market equity, survey the peers for market equity, and then also look at current compensation system to determine if there was any issues with major internal equity that could be rectified through some of our recommendations. And then we've produced a series of recommendations and a solution, and to follow this meeting, we'll be presenting the final report to Yaska in the next couple of weeks. But we want to get through this to make sure that everything we were doing was good to go. The project occurred in 4 phases. We're basically in the 4th phase now. So we've done the outreach, the internal analysis, and the external analysis, and we're in the solution and reporting phase. So we have come a long way, and that's good. We're going to skip some of this. The market targets, we collected market data from 19 peers. All of the data we collected were corrected for cost of living. We used 100 jobs that were benchmarked and compared to 100 like positions in the external labor market. Market survey results were fairly consistent. We found that the city was below market. Notably here in the adjusted for cost of living section here, notably below market at an increasing rate as the ranges progressed. And what that tells us is that your ranges were slightly narrower than the market, and the market had more top-end growth for what we found. We did come up with recommendations for proposed pay plans, which is what they wanted me to emphasize today in this meeting. First and foremost, we recommend or are recommending a public safety step plan for sworn and certified police and fire employees. You'll see that the grades, this is just sort of half of it. I'm going to show you the other half in just a moment. But the grades are regularly numbered PS 101 through PS 125, with a low end of 34,528 and a top end minimum of 139,801. In all likelihood, you will not use all of these grades. We just wanted to show you, and present a complete plan that is as flexible as you need it to be. So if you had cadets, or if you had, other sworn staff later in the plan that need alternative pay grades, you've got a full and robust plan to place them into. This shows step 0, which is the hiring rate. This assumes 0 years of experience, meets the minimum qualifications to come in and fill the job, and rolling up through step 8 on this page, and then through steps 9 through 20 on this page. So again, the grades are still numbered, but this is kind of picking up where we left off on the previous slide. So it's step 9, 10 on up to step 20. The advantages of a step plan are well documented. In particular, for a public safety organization, it gives employees in those roles, those sworn and certified roles, those sort of boots on the ground folks, if you will, some predictability in their compensation as they look forward towards the future of their careers with an organization. And so for that reason, these step plans remain very popular in these public safety roles, which is important to understand. This presentation is very short, so there's lots of opportunity for questions here as we go. But before I move on to the next pay plan, does anybody have any questions about the public safety grades?
Vice Mayor Joyner?
I have one question. Does this include, because we proclaimed we had a proclamation about dispatchers and that kind of thing, is that included are they included in this one?
No.
They're not?
No, ma'am. The step plan in this case is for the, like I said, the sworn and certified, sort of the boots on the ground first responders in your rank structure. Support staff would be in the next plan, which I can show you here.
Okay.
There's a general employee plan, also numbered 101 through 125, so they're similar in layout.
Okay.
But these just have open ranges, which is the other predominant pay scale type that we see in the public sector, where they've got a minimum. So someone meeting minimum requirements of a job like dispatcher might come in at, call it $41,000 or $38,000, and whatever the minimum might be. And then through the course of their career, however the employer advances salaries, be it cost of living adjustments, across the board increases, merit-based pay, any number of methods can progress an individual employee through these ranges. What this also allows for is flexibility in the hiring rates, in much the same way that we might see, if we were to recruit a police officer, they wanted to start at PS 110 for a straight-up police officer, but you hired a police officer that has 5 years' experience in a neighboring jurisdiction, you have the flexibility of hiring them into the step plan at a step that's commensurate with their level of previous experience.
So what would, just for curiosity, what would, like in terms of years of service, where does that fit in per step? Is it, how do you determine that?
Yeah, so in most traditional step plans, steps are awarded on an annual basis, barring, any administrative or budget constraints. And administratively, you would look for employees who are meeting performance standards and things like that. But typically, steps are evaluated annually. And there would be an employment policy on the city's part that would spell out how those steps are qualified for and awarded.
Didn't mean to interrupt, but like if you were just to use the example, you're bringing somebody in from another jurisdiction and they've got 5 years of experience. Where would that generally fall under the step? Would it be step 5?
No. So our current policy in the city only award up to 6 steps for experience.
Okay. All right.
Right. And so your hiring policy would dictate that. I just realized I took a sip of a beverage in a koozie, and I wanted to let you know it's a Sprite and not a beer. I'm not drinking a beer during your presentation.
We can't see.
That's after the meeting.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so some credit for previous years of experience, up to and including step 6. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're tied to giving a 1-for-1 award. We've seen situations where employers will credit 50% of previously documentable years of experience, or up to 75% of previously documentable years of experience when calculating an entry step. And those hiring grids are fairly common practice, especially in situations where previous employment is easy to document. Public safety fits into that category. And, what makes if you're a sworn officer in a neighboring jurisdiction, you've got the requirements to be a sworn officer of the law in your state, and so there's certain expectations of qualifications there. And so the experience is easy to document in those cases. Not always as easy in other instances. And so when we look at a non-sworn pay plan or a general employee open range pay plan, you typically have a similar policy in place that says that we may hire up to the 25th percentile, or the first quartile of the range, as a hiring grid, for example, would be something that we would see there. But the key here is to understand that the plan itself is designed to be consistent from top to bottom, with a slight bump in the range spread here at the bottom. So the range spread is the distance as a percentage from the maximum over the minimum. So in this case, $56,971.20. We included the cents. Not everybody does. Some people just cut it off at the closest dollar, and these percentages get a little less precise. But is $56,971.20 is 65% higher than $34,528 even. So yeah, and then the midpoint progression, or the distance between ranges, is also consistent for the most part until you get to higher levels of leadership, where, in order to get to market competitive pay for department heads, city management, we would need, if we were continuing at a 6% pace, this might be another 15 grades long, and those are just grades you're not really going to use. So we typically will accelerate the growth of the top end of the range to make the plan as compact as possible to still meet your needs. So that's the open range plan. When it comes to an implementation methodology, we presented a number of options at a previous meeting, and again, we've been back and forth on. There's been a lot of cooperation and sort of collaboration on which implementation methodology presents the most feasible implementation structure for your organization. In this case, we came to a hybrid parity approach. Hybrid parity credits years in service with the organization, and a factor of also years in their current job classification. So it's a combination of those two different calculations of, so if I've been here for 10 years, I've been in my current job for 2 of those 10 years, then I get some portion of the years of the 10 years plus some portion of usually a 50-50 split, or a blended ratio between the two, to place the employee into the pay range. So that's what's been done in this case. And that is really it. I think your logical question may come to, what's this going to cost, or who's impacted? In some of the back and forth with finance and city management, we had lengthy discussions about what can the city afford and what are their top priorities. And so we did elect to put forward a presentation, and I think finance is probably still working on some of the implementation, dollar figures, but the first phase, the first round of implementation would occur for those public safety employees. I think, Yaska, was there another group as well, or was it just public safety right at the moment?
Recreation.
Recreation, there it is. I didn't want to misspeak, but I believed it was recreation. So yeah, public safety, so fire, police, and the recreation folks would be in the first round of implementation. And the detailed breakdowns of who's impacted by name and for how many dollars are in the possession of the city at the moment. Yes.
Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions.
Don't let me off the hook that easy. You waited all this time for me to yap for 10 minutes. So I feel like my brevity is a blessing and a curse.
Well, Brian, we've had internal discussions, so I think
absolutely
everybody has come to the conclusion that we are where we are.
Yeah.
So, do you guys need a motion tonight, or is this you're already incorporating this into the budget?
This is incorporated into the
budget. Okay, so you don't need, okay.
Just information.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, we need approval of the step plan.
Oh.
We actually need a formal approval for that, because that's a HR, that goes in the policy. That's what she uses when new people come aboard.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so is there a motion to approve the step plan as presented? All right, motion's been made by Councilor Day and seconded by Vice Mayor Joyner. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, one more. I need approval that council is approving the two-phase approach.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the two-phased approach for implementing adjustments as presented?
So moved.
Okay. Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Ellis? Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
All right. Next up is our city attorney, Mr. Bissett.
Before we continue to that, Mr. Mayor, speaking to Brittany, I believe there may have been a misstatement earlier on the school budget presentation for the motion. It is possible that you may have referred to adopting the city budget rather than the city schools budget.
Oh, city schools.
So just a motion to amend that.
Okay. So is there a motion to amend the previous motion to clarify that's the Hopewell City Public School budget?
So moved.
All right. Motion's been made by Counselor Day and seconded by Counselor Ellis. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Counselor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Mr. Bissett.
So, Council, we have actually a trio of votes up here for adoption. The first one being the Treasurer and Director of Finance Duties Ordinance. The second one after that, I'm just previewing here, is going to be the Council's Rules of Conduct, and the third is the ATV Ordinance. Each one of these has been presented to Council at the previous meeting, and there's been discussion. But now, before I ask for a vote, I'd like to give Council the opportunity on the Treasurer and Director of Finance Duties Ordinance to ask any further questions you may have.
Are there any questions? Okay. Seeing no lights, is there a motion to approve the ordinance regarding the duties and functions of the Director of Finance and the City of Treasurer as presented tonight?
So moved.
All right. Motion's been made by Vice Mayor Joyner and seconded by Counselor Day. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Rules of conduct.
Again, I'd like to offer an opportunity for Council to ask any further questions they may have before voting on the measure.
Okay. All right. Seeing no lights at this time, is there a motion to adopt the City Council rules of conduct immediately?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Counselor Harris and seconded by Counselor Ellis. Is there any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, it's your last one, Mr. Bissett.
And once again, now on the ATV ordinance, if there are any further questions from Council.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing no lights, is there a motion to approve the ATV ordinance as presented tonight?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Counselor Ellis and seconded by Counselor Harris. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Mr. Crocker.
Present and accounted for. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Mike Crocker, Director of Public Works, Interim Director of Hopewell Water Renewal. What I have tonight is the proposed operating budget for Hopewell Water Renewal. Before we get started, I do want to thank all of the city staff that have been involved, the industry partners that have been involved, the TAC committee, the commission itself. It's a collective effort to get this budget together. It's not always easy, There's a lot of opinions in the room as to what we need to do and where we should spend money, and it's a significant budget. But nonetheless, we persevered through that and come out with a budget that's been blessed by the commission. That's what we bring to you tonight. I won't spend a lot of time on the entire budget. It is pretty lengthy. However, I do want to highlight some things. Notably, the budget represents a total increase of 1.86% over last year. So not a significant increase. And there may be some questions with that relative to the amount of work that we have to do relative to pending consent orders and the like. What it does represent, though, is some increases to maintenance, and then any budget categories that have increased or decreased along the way is essentially a reallocating of funds to the appropriate line items where they are in fact necessary for operations and maintenance. I do want to say I've been down there for, I guess, a month and a half, maybe a little longer. It's been a long month and a half. I asked my acting deputy, Andy Fitzwater, to come with me tonight. He's the reason I'm half of a human standing here instead of barely a human standing here. I'm very grateful to have his expertise. The additional leadership down there has meant a lot. Through culture change, project prioritization, there's a renewed sense of pride and ownership amongst the staff, and what we're asking them to do is challenging. It's very challenging. I'm not going to lie. They might look at me some days and go, "Man, what's wrong with that guy?" But it's all for the greater good. Again, this budget's been deliberated on by the TAC committee, who is instrumental, and I do want to thank our industry partners in helping us prioritize. We have a lengthy list of capital projects that have to be done at that facility, and they don't happen overnight. And through the TAC committee prioritizing that, the commission was ultimately able to include that as a part of this budget as well. I'll skip through here and make a couple of highlights. You'll see here the existing organizational structure for the plant. We're currently looking at this not relative to budget impacts, but relative to its effectiveness and how it works for the facility down there and the staffing component. So we're looking at this every day, and does this work for the enterprise that we're trying to run? You'll see here the list of approved positions. I do want to say that these are approved positions. These are not all filled. Currently, it stands, I believe, at 56, and I believe we have 9 vacancies as of yesterday. So that creates some challenges as well, especially in the maintenance part of not only the plant but the sewer system as well. Here you'll note the proposed operations and maintenance budget for the plant stands at proposed at $19.2 million. Please feel free to stop me if you think some of these.
Sure. I got one question.
Sure.
One more. Yeah. So this levy in lieu of taxes, I noticed where it went down, but it went back up. It looks like.
You're actually looking at year to date through March 31st.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So the first and second column are 22 fiscal year, 22, 23, 23, 24, and then skip a column is 24, 25.
Okay. So let me ask you this: with this has virtually gone unchanged for some X number of years. I probably at least since 2020, maybe give or take. Is that something? Because that is something that is paid to the city, correct?
I'll be honest, I have no idea what levy in lieu of taxes is in this budget. Stacy may have something to offer relative to that.
Yeah, I know I'm catching you.
No, it's okay.
Cold on this one.
Stacy.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. The reason I'm asking is because if this is something that that can actually go up and help the city on its capital side. That might be something that we look at exploring, being that it hasn't been raised in so many years. I mean, I know it's a money thing. We're paying ourselves, but it could end up freeing up dollars to go towards other critical infrastructure projects.
question with regard to the maintenance.
Sure.
So the reason that the unaudited 23, 24, it went way down, okay? Is that just because things just weren't getting done? I mean, is that?
I think that's a safe assumption. I try to read between the lines and look at what the story it tells me, and then put that into real life and walking through the plant. That's highly probable.
Yeah, okay. But we're really, even our proposed budget is not even as high as as maintenance was in 22, 23. I mean, do we need to spend more? I mean, I'm really asking,
I don't know how we
is that
don't.
really what we need? I mean, I guess it's hard to.
Yeah, and I think so. Having a good idea, a good scope of the maintenance, and Mr. Fitzwater will love this part. Having a good scope of all of the problems that we have, working within the budget that we've allocated, we will get to the end of the year and have to shuffle money from one category to another and reprioritize along the way. I don't know that we will avoid that. And you may see a number at the end of the year that is more reflective of 22 and 23, just given anecdotally what I see at the facility. This is a place to start, that's for sure.
Yeah, I guess it's just kind of a little bit of a mess right now.
It's on its way to not being a mess, but it will take a minute.
Without being dramatic. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you'll notice the change in that category too, relative to what was budgeted in the previous year to this year is showing an increase. Is it enough? We'll know soon enough. There's a diligent maintenance effort underway as we speak to deal with some things that have not been dealt with in a while.
Yeah, okay. I'm just concerned that is that enough to. Of course, we don't have the money, but that just concerned me. Okay, thanks.
Does that include the secondary clarifier that you talked about that was caked up and growing vegetation?
So there's a capital allocation in the back of this budget that represents some of these projects, like the gravity thickener.
Right.
The actual ongoing maintenance I am proud to report today, thank goodness, the industrial fine screens were put back in today, which will go a long way towards preventing solids buildup in the clarifiers. So we will notice improvement in that, but a large chunk of money will be spent before the end of the year to clean out the sludge that's in those clarifiers.
Okay, that's encouraging.
But with the screens back in place, I think we can safely assume that we'll be in a much better position after we spend that money, that it won't be something that recurs.
Okay.
And please stop me along the way if you.
I've got a question about.
Sure.
So I'm going to the the labor. I'm looking at this kind. You say you've got 9 vacancies.
9 vacancies.
And they're included. That those vacancies are included in this proposed filling those.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
All of the approved positions are represented in the budget.
Just making sure.
You'll notice, through 3/31, we're at $2.1 million in salary expenses. Out of a $3.4 million budget. So there's obviously some savings realized throughout the year with those vacancies.
Sure.
This shows 8 full time, and then we have had a vacancy come about. So that's where I get the 9 from.
So those salary savings that you have, are you guys going to be able to reallocate some of those from operational over to helping fund some capital projects?
No, they were already approved 2 meetings ago, when the finance director reallocated those savings to the attorney fees for the.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, okay.
The fourth amendment.
Okay, gotcha.
Negotiation that contract.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that was only up to that time of that presentation. There may
be some extras
that
left over.
come about between now and the end of the budget year.
Because you got still these vacancies still.
I just didn't know. If you have some extra money, you could maybe at least start engineering and design and just start getting the ball rolling on the next year's.
But I will also say that this is an enterprise fund, and the commission did adopt the Evergreens salary proposal for those employees as well. So that's built into the budget.
Okay.
And the city's responsibility is only 1/4 of that cost, so not as much, because the other industries pitch in for those salaries as well.
Okay. So have you guys started like an executive search for the director and deputy director positions?
That will be for the interim that comes on board,
Okay.
hopefully in the next week or so. That's part of the scope of his work.
Okay.
I will say that any savings that we find between, or reallocations that we find between now and the end of the year will likely get eaten up in maintenance.
Okay.
For sure. It will not take long to do that.
So the Evergreen, so we are accepting the Evergreen recommendations for all these employees that here at wastewater.
And I believe, so the allocation that Dr. Maker refers to as well is also contained in the back of this budget, relative to cost share percentages relative to the industries and the city. As I'd mentioned, removing some of that sludge and some of the things that we have to do will be contractual costs that we incur through service providers that, we have a very small maintenance staff, and we keep them booked up on a lot of projects, so we will have to utilize third-party staff to have some of this work done.
I have probably a really stupid question, but the numbers we're looking here, we're looking at the whole facility, and so, okay.
You're looking inside the fence, so if I can distinguish, the wastewater facility, this represents Hopewell Water Renewal inside of the fence. When we step outside of the fence, we enter a territory that is all the cities. It's our burden to carry. So I had mentioned before that the sewer lines being like spider webs that connect to all of our constituents, all of the pump stations service, all of our public. That's ours to bear. That is outside of this budget. This represents what the commission is responsible for.
This represents what the commission is responsible
Correct.
for, and we don't, and our part is what,
1/4.
1/4, okay. All right.
Yes, we should get to that actually
Okay.
relatively quickly.
What
You
is
will
that revenue
notice
movement?
here, I'll go back one, the proposed increase in legal services due to a number of things, not only the Fourth Amendment, also pending order from the state may also tap into that as well. This is probably good just for historical context for any of the newer council folks. So outside treatment revenues, this is leachate and septic collections fees that we would typically receive through outside parties bringing sewage or leachate to the facility. You'll notice that it used to be a significant portion of revenue for the city, and that has largely dropped off, which is why you see prior budgets being a lot higher. And now where we stand, those deliveries have dropped off significantly.
Why exactly is that?
Other facilities are able to take a similar waste, and it could be, for travel costs, could be more conducive for them to visit another facility.
Okay.
And I think also part of it was capacity. Like I think years ago, I think Dickie Thompson, Jerry Byerly ended up sending people back because they couldn't handle all the flow at one time.
And a lot of it has to do with weather. Some of it's weather related too.
And unfortunately, that was a missed opportunity from previous councils where we could have been making more money and reinvesting back in. But as my previous comments still stand. Previous councils just didn't prioritize proper economic development infrastructure projects.
I will say, just for the purposes of at a wastewater facility, you really never get to a place where you say, okay, we can sit back. It's not that type of operation. These things you could think about it relative to us working 24 hours a day. At some point, we have to rehabilitate ourselves and take a nap and come back full circle. These plants run 24/7, and the only time they stop is when something breaks or we shut it down to replace something that's about to break. So they do require continual investment and reinvestment. You'll see here a list of capital projects that ultimately the TAC prioritized in the budget requests that represent each of these particular line items. This is one particular year, so this is not all inclusive. There's a list of capital projects that is much longer than the list I'm showing you right now, but this represents next year.
What is the cost of the replacement of the oxygen plant? What are we looking at there? I mean, I know what it was maybe a year ago. What is it now? Do you have any idea?
I don't have current dollars. I know at the time that it was looked at, the cost was somewhere between $17 and $20 million. That's one of the projects that we put in for earmark request. Maybe we'll be successful, maybe we won't, but keep my fingers crossed.
And how is that? I mean, it's hot? It's obviously running. I mean,
it's running. Trust me, you would know if it wasn't, because the bills would be steep. It's running. I'll give the crew a lot of credit. They do everything they can to keep that thing moving along. So.
Thank you so much.
And when I came up in here this evening, I thought we were going to have to use this room as the incinerator. Our incinerator's been down. I'm thinking about repurposing council chambers. But. These are the proposed capital allocations. So this gets down into a breakdown of how all of the partners in the commission split up those costs.
Wow. Okay. Well, can you back up?
Sure.
Yeah, West Rock. I mean,
they carry a share.
That's because they get the most flow.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's just surprising.
And then this is total water renewal budget, factoring in capital expenses, debt service payments, and the like, for a total of $27.5 million. So it's a significant utility. It's no small feat, for sure, especially for a city the size of Hopewell. But I do want to wrap back around and say I'm incredibly impressed with the staff, the industry partners, everybody coming together. It's a very challenging time, even for myself, to enter this arena during budget season, during my own public works budget season, with the challenges that the plant faces, and the fact that we're able to come through with this. Does it have everything we want, everything we need? No, but the industries know where we stand. DEQ knows where we stand, and we have a path forward. So that's what's important. And thanks to Mr. Fitzwater for backing me up on that. As I said, he's been an incredible help to me and to the staff. With that, I'll take any final questions, and then I have one particular thing to touch on relative to the network outside of water renewal as well.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I mean, I think probably all of us want to say thank you for stepping in for Fred.
Absolutely.
And this presentation was very informative, and just take it one day at a time. We appreciate your leadership during this very difficult time.
I appreciate that. Like I said, the staff have been great to work with. They've embraced me, my ideas, Mr. Fitzwater and his ideas. There's a lot more camaraderie amongst that staff than when I showed up there. And that's good to see, because I'll be honest, a facility like that doesn't run with the term I. There's no I in team, and they hear me say it ad nauseum, and I'm sure they're sick of it. But if they don't have each other's backs in what they're trying to undertake, they will not be successful, and I think they're starting to realize that. So I'm very proud of them. Like I said, I've only spent a month and a half with them, but there have been some seriously long days, and I'm grateful for everything that they've done and all they've been educating me on what it is that they do and how this plant runs. So.
And I've heard great things from the industry partners too. Industry partners have been very complimentary of you. So.
Well, I appreciate that. I did want to touch on the pump station network and also the collection system network. So we go to the wastewater plant, we see it. We see all that it's made of, all the operational processes, the solids removal, the incinerator, the oxygen plant. It's all visible. We can all see it. What we don't see is when we leave the gate And underneath of the ground is a series of connected pipeline networks that service every one of our toilets, every one of our sinks, every one of our commercial businesses. And there's a lot of it that we don't see. And unfortunately, a lot of it in terrible condition, and some have unknown condition, to be fair. And the only way that we figure out what condition it's in is to survey it. I don't know when the last comprehensive sanitary sewer evaluation has been done. I know there's been some look at not only the wastewater treatment plant, but the pump stations as well. The pump stations are one component, right? We'll use a couple examples. So in the event that you have a pump station that's receiving increased flow, it's easy to say, okay, we need to upgrade the pump station to handle that additional capacity. Well, what happens when it leaves the pump station? Typically downstream, you have a force main that's there. It may be adequate, it may be inadequate, it may be subpar condition. You put bigger pumps on a pipe like that, and you're going to end up with a catastrophic scenario. I think we'll see some of that in the order. I think Mayor Parton, you had asked me about overflows, and I think there will be a section of the consent order that will likely reference overflow conditions that we've experienced at our pump stations, and that will put the pressure on us to take a look at not only the stations but the conveyance system itself. I did want to touch on the fact that this is just for the pump stations. This document is 351 pages. It'll put you to sleep if you need something to read tonight before you go to bed. But it does outline of all of the pump stations listed here, various items that need to be looked at. And I believe it did recommend pump station replacement at this time. So this study was 2022, 2023. So the information is still valid, and some of these conditions have in fact worsened. The pump station replacements were recommended for Mansion Hills Pump Station, North Colonial Pump Station, Sherwood Lane. Those were full replacements. We may have a couple others that have entered that type of scenario just by their worsening condition. But looking back at this chart, this is a way. And this didn't really, there's a capacity line on here, but I want you to think about capacity in two separate ways. The pump station and then the lines. This did not look at the lines. This is just specifically pump stations. So the majority of our pump stations have inadequate backup power facilities, which is catastrophic during any sort of, no power condition, whether that be a storm or not. Safety considerations. There are many of these pump stations that myself or Mr. Fitzwater cannot send a mechanic into because of H2S gas and concentrations that no human should be breathing. Those conditions with H2S gas have also increased, or they've sped up the degradation of these facilities. It causes significant corrosion and rust to occur on electrical components, ventilation components, if they're present. A lot of these facilities don't have ventilation components. So these are just some of the things that I wanted to point out that are common. You'll see the electrical condition is a common theme amongst this, code compliance, safety, ventilation. It did go so far as to take a look at the individual pump stations, and this is from a visual perspective. So
this
these
is
folks,
from the Dewberry report.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
They visited the stations. They were able to make some visual observations and notations, and come up at that time with essentially what they felt like the upgrades would cost, the improvements would cost to these facilities, and then to give it a range in cost. I think we can safely assume from the time this report was done until now that the top end of that higher range cost is probably more accurate than what was originally represented. I say all this to put us in the mindset of thinking about our sewer system holistically, not only the treatment plant, but the pump station and collection system network, that just like paving, this was no different. These are a series of assets that we own and maintain, and we have to have a longer-term outlook for addressing some of these concerns and repairing them. I do know that bypass pumping costs and operations that we experience, they're significant. They're significant. Is it critical? Yes, we have to do it. We don't have an option, but at least if we're able to develop a plan moving forward of how we tackle this, there's light then at the end of the tunnel to to reduce some of that pumping costs, upgrade these pump stations, and focus on some line work as well that we definitely know needs to be done. But again, each of these pump stations has a series of recommendations, costs associated with them. We also did put in for a series of these in the federal earmark as well. We would have to carry 20% of that cost if we were successful, but fingers crossed we're successful. 20%'s pennies relative to the overall cost. So, but that's something that whether I'm involved with the sewer utility or not, is something that I think a priority should be put on. Not only the rehabilitation, upgrade, replacement, overhaul, call it what you will, establishing a priority ranking, a capital improvements plan of sorts that goes beyond 5 years, because it will take longer than 5 years to do this, and it will take longer than 5 years to take a look at line work and have some of that line work done. So I just want to spend a minute, touch on that. I'm happy to answer any questions. My time has been split between Public Works, Water Renewal, and as I have free time, I guess you could say, I try to venture out into the pump station network to really put some of what's going on there, so that I can accurately inform council. But with that, I'll take any questions.
I have one question. It has to do with the survey of all of this. I mean, where do you start with that? I mean, and what kind of dollars do you think we're looking at something like that?
I don't know. We're in the process of exploring that. The best way to tackle that. It's not something that I would say we should sit on. We should have an idea of where it is, so we have somewhere to start. I do know that when we upgrade the pumps in Queen Anne, there's no way that we get away with not upgrading the force main outside of that facility. So, you know, hey, chalk one up, we got one on the list, but there are more to follow. And obviously cameraing lines and getting conditions of those lines, that's an ongoing process, and I will give the sewer collection crew a lot of credit. They put the miles on that camera. So the money that we spent to buy that camera has paid for itself over and over again. They continue to survey the system, and some of that data can be used for a consultant to help us develop a prioritization about where we start first.
Yeah, I can tell you, Linda Newman and her crew are just phenomenal.
They are.
And there's very few people in this world that are as passionate about sewage as what she is, and preventing blockages and helping citizens. Her and her team do a marvelous job. So, please relay, my kind thoughts and my accolades to her and her team. Really, from all of council, because believe it or not, that's one thing I don't get as many calls about as what I used to when I first started on city council. But anyway,
she's very responsive.
Yeah,
she's one of the most responsive public relations sewer folks we have. So.
So my question for you, you may not have this now, but hopefully by our next budget meeting you'll have it. How many pump station upgrades, repairs, or total rehabs do you have in this year's budget? Outside the Queen Anne one that we've done a separate appropriation for.
I don't know that we have any other than maybe some pump replacements, but I will say that's triage. Right?
Okay.
That's triage. This particular budget represents Hopewell Water Renewal. I do want everybody to
Right,
understand
that's the plan. Yeah, I'm talking about the outside the
the
fence.
sewer
like
budget.
say.
I don't have that with me. I could certainly find out.
Okay.
I do know. So when you look at roughly the $7.5 million, I believe that Fund 41 and 43, which is maintenance and then sewer operations, collections outside the fence, of that what they get, I believe over half of that gets eaten up in power consumption costs from these pump stations. They're big power sinks, and I'll be honest, the older some of these motors get, the more electricity that they use.
Right.
So, but I'm happy to look into that and get more information and bring it back to you.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, if we need to, I think as part of like our budget and with some of our other funds that we have on the city side, yes, I know it's not attractive to the rating agencies to take general revenue and put it in there over time, multiple times. But if we can scrape up enough dollars to do a good handful of these and start knocking these things out, I think it would do us a world of good. Prioritizing those in our budget.
I think the comprehensive plan is certainly a start, and then we learn more information, right, day to day as failures occur, where we have to kind of shift priorities. So I think myself and Mr. Fitzwater and some of the staff that work outside of the fence have been deliberating about how we put together a prioritized list of where do we start. And some of our consultants have some historical context with this, so we'll utilize some of their assistance to really get to where do we start beyond Queen Anne. Right? The problem's bigger than that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Crocker? Do you need adoption or approval of this to be included in the budget, or is it just going to be in the overall budget?
It'll be in the overall budget.
Okay. All right. R9.
Bringing it home. So the next item on the agenda is something that I haven't seen and I don't have much historical context for. However, what I can offer you is there's a waiver request from and I believe Roberto is still with us. So from Amaral Homes LLC and intends to acquire 2 lots on Maryville Avenue, and this is one of these particular lots is adjacent to an unopened street. There's a section of Granby Street that is unimproved at the moment. So there's a gap in between the 2 sections of Granby Street. We see this a lot in Hopewell. And there's a condition of the streets code that states that anybody wishing to develop on those lots, whether they're frontage lots or corner lots, would provide for the development or opening of that street and its subsequent improvements. I don't need to tell City Council that developing a street and putting in the appropriate appurtenances to support street construction is, the math doesn't math. It's cost prohibitive for a single-family lot. Somebody's going to develop a single-family lot. However, the streets code does allow for City Council to grant a waiver from the development of the abutting street if the lot is a corner lot, and this lot happens to be a corner lot. And this is the subject lot here. The unimproved section of Granby Street, you will see there, currently has a stream running through it, which is serviced by drainage infrastructure that drains Granby Street and part of Maryville Avenue. There are other lots that would technically front Granby Street that, if they were improved, would fall subject to this condition as well, but only one of those lots would represent a corner lot and fall into a similar situation, such as the one I bring tonight. So the request from Amaral Homes is for a waiver or exemption from developing this particular section of street, given that they have frontage on Maryville Avenue and thus do not need their lot to be serviced by that section of Granby Street. And this is a waiver that can be granted by council. It's not a policy for city department directors to grant this. It actually states explicitly that it is council's to grant. Here you'll see the image of the curve of Maryville, and if you look straight into the woods, that would be where Granby Street would continue if it were in fact open and improved. And this is a little bit further into the turn, looking down Maryville Avenue at the front of the subject lot. And the developer has also included just some sketches, not that it's relevant at this point, of elevations of the house that they would intend to construct. Not really relevant for this topic of conversation, but certainly the context is helpful. So that is the request tonight. The applicant is under contract for the lots, and time is of the essence relative to that contract, and they do request that council grant them a waiver from the development, from the requirement to develop the unopened street on Granby Street. I'll gladly take any questions, and Roberto, who represents Amaral Homes, is also here if we have questions for him.
Okay. All right, I don't see any lights for any questions or anything. Is there a motion to approve the waiver request as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Vice Mayor Joyner and seconded by Councilor Ellis. Seeing no lights, roll call, please.
Counselor Ellis?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joyner?
Yes.
Counselor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Parton?
Yes.
Counselor Day?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. All
Thank
right.
you.
That will close out our meeting. Thank you all.